Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we are back with game number 2 in this best of 3 series, spawning at the top position on MLG Antiga Shipyard as the red Protoss. It is none other than the UK's very own Dignitas.BlinG. And spawning in the bottom position as the blue Zerg, we have Lowland Lions Orly. Now, Orly managed to win game 1 reasonably convincingly at the end there, thanks to some very good macro play stemming from the fact that he was able to take a third base so quickly because he got map control with that early Zerglings out of that 12 pool. BlinG, of course, went Nexus first, or rather fast expand, and built that forge at the low ground, which we see he's probably going to do again because that pylon is again a signal of intent. So we're going to see a forge, a gateway, a photon cannon, and a cybernetics core, or in some sort of order, to wall that off. The question now is whether they're going to employ the exact same strategies in this game, and if they do, Orly can really just do the same thing, but BlinG has to make his harass really count. And that's because we do have the pool going down, by the way, on 12, so it looks like Orly's going for the same strategy, unless he's going for some sort of massive early Zergling aggression, which I doubt. And that's because BlinG managed to go Void Rays last game, and those two Void Rays didn't do an awful lot of damage, and because they didn't, Orly managed to cement that economic advantage that third base gave him once they were all saturated. Until they're saturated, of course, the economic advantage is only psychological. You're thinking, oh, my opponent has an extra base, but if they don't have enough drones to saturate that extra base, it doesn't matter quite that much yet. And that's where the harassment comes in. BlinG has to do better with his harassment this game than he did last game in order to tie the series up and take it to a third game. So we're going to have to wait and see. We do have the gas coming out for Orly this time, which is different from last game. So it looks like he's going to mix things up ever so slightly, or maybe go for some earlier roaches. We've got a second extractor coming down, but that's only for the extractor trick. Nothing to worry about. And in the meantime, it looks like we're poised to take the expansion nexus. There we go. BlinG just grabbing his expand and going to come down here and presumably pop a gateway in this gap here as well. Or maybe over here, I'm not really sure. In the meantime, I expect to see the hatchery pop down at some point very soon. These Zerglings are going to make sure it goes down safely, and that's what the 12 pool is all about. We're going to be able to control this watchtower. We're going to guarantee the probe isn't going to annoy us at the expansion. And if Orly does the same thing this game as he did last game, he's also going to be able to take his third pretty quickly. Presumably he takes it here and not in some ninja location. We do have both gases being taken in the main slightly earlier than last game here from BlinG. So both sides electing to mix it up ever so slightly. Only a single gas being taken, but of course all the probes have gone off of gas now because we have 100 gas, and that's enough for metabolic boost. So all he's doing is getting Zergling speed up a little bit quicker than he did last game. And well, that, if anything, that's going to give him a little bit more mobility around Antiga Shipyard. I presume he elected to take it earlier on this map as opposed to Shakura's Plateau, maybe because there are more avenues of attack. You can go around here, you can go around here. There were 2 or 3 routes around the watchtower. Of course, you can go through the center, and there are a reasonable number of counter-attacking routes as well, whereas on Shakura's Plateau, almost everything needs to channel through the middle, so maybe getting those speed counterattacks isn't quite as important. Although, don't forget, towards the end of the game, we saw some very, very good speedling counterattacks, so perhaps that's not the reason at all. But that's one reason it could be, and MLG Antiga Shipyard is certainly a lot more open a map than Shakura's Plateau. In the meantime, however, we have got Orly taking his third just like he did in the last game, so the onus is now on BlinG to see what kind of damage he can do before Orly saturates all 3 of these bases with drones. We're going to have to wait and see. Metabolic boost is now just about complete, and Orly has cemented map control. Presumably he's going... oh, he's just going to whistle away at these back rocks. Very, very nice, making sure the Zerglings aren't idle, doing nothing, and that's exactly how he's going to scout the third, just by making sure these rocks are weakened or hopefully dead by the time BlinG realizes what's going on. I don't think BlinG's going to be taking a third anytime soon, though. If the last game is anything to go by, he's just going to be chilling out and trying to get as many probes as possible off on 2 base before pushing out, hopefully destroying one of Orly's expansions at the very least, and trying to sit back with a little bit of an economic advantage. Pylon now going up back in the main base, presumably for some sort of tech that's going to be popping out momentarily, and we're still just seeing some very nice droning up here from Orly. Nothing too drastic despite that early pull. Only 1 evolution chamber going down this time as opposed to last game. And BlinG, looking like he's going for the exact same thing. A couple of sentries being popped out. We've got some ground weapons level 1, not chrono boosting the warp gate just yet because he can take things nice and easy. And the Overlord here ready to sacrifice itself to do a little bit of scouting at some point later on in the game. We've also got the other one over here at the right hand side. Meanwhile, we have a Roach Warren popping down once again for Orly, and the Lair choosing his expansion as opposed to his main for the Lair because, of course, 2 bases are either side of it, so if BlinG decides to go any sort of Void Ray shenanigans again, the Lair is in the most protected position possible. We've got some Overlords out at the front, everything looking reasonably normal. Warp Gate is about to complete, so I'm only going to imagine BlinG will pop down a couple more gateways at some point soon and make a little bit, there we go, and make a little bit of a push out. So we are now going up to 5 gateways off 2 bases, and BlinG finally electing to grab a couple of units. In the unit counting station we see it's 50 drones to 47 probes, and at this point I would say the onus is definitely on BlinG to do a little bit of damage at that third, because Orly is doing quite a good job of cementing all 3 of those bases and just getting as much in as he can. Now the Overlord going to fly in into the main to see what he can find. 2 Stalkers are going to get warped in, and they are going to take this Overlord down, going off like popcorn in a microwave. Kaboom. What did he manage to see? The answer is a lot of gateways. So he knows that BlinG is going for some sort of push out into the middle of the map, or to secure a third very, very quickly. Some nice forward pylons there from BlinG, going to warp down onto the low ground. I'd like to see a couple of units whittle away at these rocks though, and unfortunately the creep spread is already going to give a little bit of indication from Orly when that's going to happen. So very, very nice out of base creep spread. All 3 bases are now connected by creep. This seems like something standard that you should see all Zergs do, but to be honest, unless you're at the very highest level, you don't see Zergs doing this consistently, and so it's good to have that sort of play in. It's not something that it's easy to keep a track of. Zergs have to multitask with lava injects as well as creep tumors and all sorts of other stuff, so it's good to see that going on. We do have a couple of Stalkers being warped in at this high ground now, and does he see it? He does not see it just yet, but he does see the latest warp in, and he knows a pylon's there now because he saw those sentries warp in. BlinG's now going to go to work on these back rocks, and this attack timing should be reasonably good compared to last game with the Void Rays. BlinG's are just going to run straight by. Half the BlinG's going to go up to hunt for the pylon, the other half just going to sit around and wait. I like this idea because he might be able to stop any sort of additional warp-ins from going through. And we do have now BlinG harassing the third. If he manages to take this third down, it's going to be a massive improvement compared to last game. And this army is looking quite formidable at the moment. Those sentries have a lot of energy, so they're going to be able to use a reasonable number of forces. But look at these roaches, and the Lings coming in from behind as well. Oh no, those force fields aren't exactly optimal. They have overlapped each other a bit. He could have used one less, but that's not going to matter. Oh no, the Protoss army is surrounded on both sides. Some really, really good force fields just protecting the army, but at the end of the day, Orly just does so much more, so maybe BlinG needed to attack a little bit early, or it puts a little bit more harass on the third. BlinG does lose the entire army. He does completely deny the third for quite a while, but the hatchery remains alive, and Orly decides now might be the time for a little bit of a counter push. The supply is now 104 for Orly and 72 for BlinG. BlinG, of course, doing a very good job off of 2 bases. He has taken both the gases at his expansion now as well, and also taking out the Overlord that was gooping up his third. So preparing to take the third if Orly doesn't do anything about it, and we're going to see if Orly can press home his advantage. Now BlinG mixed it up, tried something different, didn't go for the Stargate, just wanted to harass the third, and as it currently stands, only 7 drones, now 8 drones, mining at the third again. So at least there's a small economic edge for him in that regard, because he's compared to last game, that is. I know he's on 2 bases to Orly's 3, but at the expense of the army so early on in the game can't be that good. We do have 3 DTs being warped in now, because hey, when you're behind you might as well go DTs. Unfortunately we've got a whole bunch of we have a Spore Crawler and a Spine Crawler going down. The Overseer is going to come in, the Lings are going to pick up the DTs, and it looks like that's really not going to work with BlinG at all. So he's been mixing it up, but unfortunately not going to work so far in the game. That said though, he hasn't lost yet. BlinG is nearly done, and we've also got +1 melee attacks for the Zerg about to complete. And BlinG electing to take the gold, so BlinG doing everything in his power to try and get back into this game. The Stalkers are going to engage roaches in the middle of the map. A very nice offensive BlinG forward, picks up a couple more roaches, but now the Zerglings are also streaming in. And oh no, Infesto with a fantastic fungal, killing off a whole bunch of Stalkers, and another 7 or 8 get trapped in the middle of the map. This looks horrible for Bling, and the supply is dropping like nobody's business. Orly can effectively 1A across the map now, and at the very least he has map control. At the very worst, Bling looks like he might die. We're going to have to wait and see. A reasonable number of Stalkers defending the front here. They do have Blink now, and the Zealot also going to defend that little gap, but the Roach is popping in. It looks like this might overpower the... oh dear. Right, so the cannon goes down. The gap is much larger now. Infested Terrans are popping out as well. The Roach is streaming into the base. The Probe's coming out to defend. A bit of a last-ditch defense, and it looks like Bling is going to go down. GG. Orly takes the series 2-0. Bling is going to be sent down into the losers bracket, and Orly is going to advance into the winners bracket final to face off against, not going to say it, the winner of the other winners bracket round 3 game, which is also cast on YouTube, so do take a quick look. The next game I'm going to cast is going to be the winners bracket round 4, otherwise the winners bracket final. So stay tuned and catch you then.